Hello Cloud Pedagogians, welcome to the lab course. In this lab, you will start with an empty environment and a CloudFormation template that is provided in the lab. We will use the stack to launch the resources and we will have the DynamoDB table created by the template. What's neat is that the template can be used again later to launch resources in the test or production environments. By end of this lab, you will have a good understanding of infrastructure as code using CloudFormation. Before that, let's brief about DynamoDB and CloudFormation. Amazon DynamoDB is a fully managed NoSQL database service provided by AWS, also known for scalability, low latency, and seamless integration with other AWS services. Whereas AWS CloudFormation is a service that allows users to define their infrastructure as JSON or YAML templates and get CloudFormation to take care of going out and creating the resources. Templates can be used to define any resource currently supported by CloudFormation and allows user to create complex interdependencies between components. Developers can combine any of infrastructure resources they need for their project and deploy them all at once. CloudFormation is smart enough to detect changes from previous iterations, apply changes, and roll back the changes if any unexpected error is encountered. So, in this article, we will explore how to create a DynamoDB table using CloudFormation. Let's see the prerequisites before starting it. I would expect to have a little familiarity with AWS CloudFormation and basic knowledge of AWS services including DynamoDB. Also, I would expect to have a little understanding of YAML or JSON as CloudFormation templates can be written in either format. We will start the lab with looking at a scenario. Suppose a small software company is building a web app. Developers are needed to provision the database infrastructure which will hold the web data. So here developers use CloudFormation to write the desired state of the infrastructure using code which will create a DynamoDB table. If you are ready, let's start with our task. In task 1, we will have an overview of the CloudFormation template. In task 2, we are going to launch a stack. In the final task, we are going to observe the DynamoDB table which are created by the template. Let's start with the task 1 overview of the CloudFormation template. Let's start by creating the CloudFormation template to define our DynamoDB table. Here, the CloudFormation template is written in YAML format for simplicity. So look at the template. In this CloudFormation template, we have our resources like CP student table. This resource creates a DynamoDB table with the required schema. We are going to review and download the CloudFormation template where the link is provided in the description. I have opened the link. Let's take a look at it. It's written in YAML. JSON is also an acceptable format. So this template describes the table, its primary keys and additional information. If you notice here, we are creating a DynamoDB table and here we are giving the table name of CP student. Let's look at the attribute name. This is actually a reference in parameter list, so we have hash key element name. Let's look down on parameters list and this is basically giving the name of the primary key. And this is mandatory when we are creating a table. All the items can be uniquely identified by this primary key. Here we are calling the primary key student ID. Now let's look at hash key element type. This is a reference down here and notice here we are defining a type as string. Now let's go back and check on provision throughput. This essentially describes how we are going to be built for the table. Below here, we have defined the read capacity and write capacity units. This is for data that is to read and return to the table. Like I mentioned, this controls how you are charged and it's also how you manage capacity. We are going to set the capacity for both to 4 and this defines the number of reads and writes per second that we require. Now the next step is to download the template to your local computer because you will need to upload it later. Copy the code and save that code into your local environment. Good job, you got to know a clear understanding of CloudFormation template. Next, we are going to launch this stack in AWS. Now we are going to launch our stack. I have navigated to the AWS Management Console and we need to find CloudFormation. In the search bar at the top, type CloudFormation and then click it on. That brings you to the CloudFormation dashboard. In order to create a new stack, over here in the right hand corner, click Create Stack and select with New Resources Standard, and that brings you to the Create Stack page. The first option is Prepare Template. We are going to select template is ready because I have provided in the lab already. Under Specify Template, we are going to select Uploaded Template file. Then we will click Choose File and then you will select the file that you downloaded. We will click Open, then we will click Next. Let's enter a stack name. Let's just say CP My Stack. Notice here the parameters that I have talked to you about in previous task. Student ID is the primary key and it is a string. Click Next. We are not going to add any tags. We'll just leave the permissions as it is because we don't really need the advanced options in our use case. So click Next. Just review the screen, make sure everything looks alright. Looking at the parameters and the advanced options, scroll down and then click Create Stack. Now as the stack is creating, you will see the status as Create in Progress. To refresh the status, in the upper right hand corner, click the refresh button. Once it is finished, the status will say Create Complete. Good job, you have successfully launched the stack. In task 3, we are going to observe the DynamoDB table. In this task, we are going to make sure the DynamoDB table was created correctly. After clicking this refresh button several times, you will see here my stack was created successfully. The status says Create Complete. After the CloudFormation stack is created, you find the table which has a name that begins with the name of your CloudFormation stack. You will notice that the table has been created and contains with the specified primary key. Now we have to navigate to the DynamoDB table. In the search bar, select Dynamo and then click on it. And this brings you to the DynamoDB dashboard. Over here on the left hand side, click on Tables and you will see here the CP student table. Click it on. Notice the partition key or the primary key is student ID and it is a string. Right now there are no items, but the table is primed and ready for the items to be inserted. Congratulations! In this article, we have explored how to use AWS CloudFormation as infrastructure as code to launch a DynamoDB table. By leveraging the power of CloudFormation, you can seamlessly manage your AWS infrastructure and automate the process of creating DynamoDB tables like this. Hope you have enjoyed the lab and see you in the next lab. Until then, take care and keep learning with fun.